So, today we will talk about Russian alphabet. Basically, there are three alphabets and cursive. We will talk about all of them. The oldest thing that can be called the Russian alphabet was made by two Greek monks of Bulgarian origin, Cyril and Methodius. They were brothers of Bulgarian origins, so basing on one of the dialects of Bulgarian language, they created the alphabet with all the sounds that were typical for Slavic languages, so they took the Greek alphabet. That happened in the 9th century. Actually, Cyril made Glagolitsa. He didn't make Kirillitsa itself. His students transformed Glagolitsa quite a bit and made Kirillitsa out of it. So Cyrillic alphabet was not created directly by Cyril himself, but it has his name. So that happened in the 9th century. Over the years later, in the 10th, 11th, 12th, up to the 18th century, nothing really changed much for Cyrillic alphabet in Russia. It got a little bit more simplified. Graphically, it was easier to write in Cyrillic over the years. Well, at first, in the 12th, in the 13th, 14th century, there were no spaces, no dots, no commas. In the 15th century appeared a dot, then in the 16th century appeared a comma, and only in the 18th century space became overall accepted. What happened in the 18th century? We'll talk about that a little bit later, but first I must mention cursive. Although Cyrillic alphabet was quite old and then changed with time, during this period, in the 14th century, appeared cursive, which is called, in Russian it's called skoropis, which literally, translated in English, means fast writing. And if you tried writing in cursive, that's pretty fast. It helps you to write faster. So, what happened in the 18th century? Speaking of Cyrillic, there were a lot of hard symbols, like there were two E letters. Spoiler, in the 18th century, these two remained. There were Greek letters for some words. Peter the Great wanted to get rid of them, like he abolished xi, a Greek letter, psi, omega, and he tried to abolish theta, which remained longer in the Russian alphabet, and he wanted to cancel the zelo, that's a second Z that we have in the alphabet, but it was finally cancelled only in 1735. He also cancelled, Peter the Great also cancelled the E, the Russian E letter, and it came back. Of course it came back because it was more typical, it was more often generally used than an E with a dot. Sometimes they added two dots there, so it was an E with two dots. Then they made it again one dot, and Imperial Russian, we can call it this way, appeared in 1710, and it was called Гражданский шрифт, or also they called it Гражданка, or Amsterdamский шрифт, like Amsterdam. Гражданский шрифт, that means civil font, as opposed to the church, because the church kept and still keeps using, until today, they use церковно-славянский шрифт, which is basically Cyrillic with a few modifications. So Peter the Great simplified the alphabet, cancelling a few letters, but then the alphabet was still not what we have now. There was a hard sign at the end of every word ending in a consonant. It used to be necessary, but even in Peter the Great's time that was already obsolete, so it was just a tradition to write it there. And there were two E letters and two Y letters. They kept two pairs in the alphabet, and that was not comfortable. Nobody really knew, so you had to learn by heart. There was no really logic. Where should you write this Y or this one, or where do you write this E or this one? No logic. You just had to remember that in a few words you write strange letters. So the last final big reform happened in 1918, when the communists, and they finally called it Russian alphabet, Русский алфавит. So the communists cancelled the E, they cancelled the Greek theta and two more letters. Thus, originally there were 44 letters in Cyrillic. Peter the Great's reform left us only with 38, and now we only have 33 letters. We don't have Greek letters, we don't have extra signs, we don't have the nasal vowels and consonants like there used to be in Cyrillic. The church still writes all of them, and you can see that in the church if you come. That's a very typical thing in the church, this writing, and it's pretty easy to read. Russians could learn to read it, and language has not changed that much since the 11th or 10th century even. We could understand it if it's written, and we could probably understand people speaking it, although it's hard to verify it now, of course.